Hi again. So let's get some names to these different categories of people that are represented by these different rungs on our ladder over here. Remember, the ladder represents the United States society as a whole on the macro scale, and each rung is on the macro scale too, because it represents a category of people within larger social structure, and those categories of people have similar social characteristics among them. So there are way too many people spread out across the entire population for us all to know each other. It's not like a secondary group in the social structure. It's a category of people. We don't know each other, but we have similar social characteristics in comparison to each other, and therefore it is safe to make some assumptions, some educated assumptions about some similar lifestyle experiences that people on these different rungs of this social ladder have. So each rung on the ladder represents a socioeconomic status or socioeconomic class. Maybe you've heard of the term socioeconomics before. That's what we're talking about here. Socioeconomic status, socioeconomic class, socioeconomics, they all mean the same thing. They are talking about, it is a status that exists in society, but we can break that status down into three achieved statuses combined. So a basic sociological definition of socioeconomic status is it's a combination of three achieved statuses that are vitally important in a capitalist economic system, in a class system, such as we have in the United States. Guess what those three statuses are? Are you hearing them in your sleep yet? You should be. Income, occupation, and education. Those three things combined determine your socioeconomic status. And the reason socio and economics are together in this compound word is because income is certainly an economic thing, but it also enables a certain kind of social experience based on the income that's available. Occupation is definitely something that is a pathway toward a particular economic level, but that occupation also carries with it degrees of varying degrees of social respect or prestige that we will look at in a future lesson. And your education level also carries with it various implications about your economic standing, what it will be moving forward, but also your aptitude for social understanding and just life experience in general. So these three achieved statuses combined are what we call socioeconomic class or socioeconomic status. So I've drawn a 7-rung ladder on the board many times before now. However, you see that I have it labeled this time. Now, I kind of didn't lay out this board as nicely as I should have, so I didn't really have some space up here to explain what those are, but let's start at the bottom anyway. Make sure that you draw yourself a new ladder or use that one that you have from your notes, in the previous lecture, but make sure you have it on a clean page so that you can explain to yourself what these different socioeconomic statuses are. So, underclass, working poor, working class, middle class, upper middle class, lower upper class, and upper upper class. These are the names that are assigned to these different rungs of the ladder. Now let's start with the underclass. The underclass has a particular social and economic description that goes with it. This is not exactly what you'll see in the book. I didn't copy everything down here because you have access to the book. Look in chapter 7, read the section on the underclass, and it will describe certain lifestyle and monetary resource conditions that are present in the underclass life experience. Underclass is underclass because their education level is typically so low that occupations, permanent occupations, are not really possible for them. Maybe seasonal work is available, like if it's strawberry season in Georgia and we need somebody to pick strawberries for a couple of weeks out of the year. You can do that because there's not computer work, there's not reading, writing, and arithmetic that has to do with it. You can be shown 2 or 3 strawberries. This is how you pick it. This is how you make sure it doesn't bruise. And you can show someone how to do that, and they might have that seasonal labor, that temporary labor to supplement their income. But they are typically unemployed, and most of the support that comes to the daily living for subsistence, the life chances for subsistence in the underclass, most of those life chances come through government assistance, stipends, food banks, charitable organizations, that kind of thing. Public assistance is the typical relied upon income source for members of the underclass. Next week, when we define what poverty is, if we can define poverty without an adjective in front of it, we are going to look at an example from an HBO documentary that shows a family in Tallahatchie County, Mississippi, that is historically the most impoverished county in the United States based on census statistics. So we're going to look at that to get an example of, so we can see what underclass means and what the lifestyle is like. We're just going to watch a little snippet of that video. Okay, so about 5% of the whole U.S. population is considered underclass. About 5%. Not a lot, but enough. You know, you can't just thumb your nose at it. It's enough to pay attention here. Okay. Also, working poor, one step up. About 20% of the U.S. population is represented on these bottom 2 rungs of the ladder. Now, please again, look in your textbook for the thorough description of this, but essentially, working poor, I mean, the word poor is in the description here. So working poor is a socioeconomic status where these folks are at a subsistence level, but you cannot assume that they have an average standard of living. Average standard of living is another term and concept that you need to investigate from Chapter 7. The average standard of living is about assumptions that people make regarding the resources that our neighbors, our friends, our fellow citizens and residents have in their life. It's about assumptions that we make regarding life chances. Do you make assumptions that electricity is available in all of the houses of the people that you're in class with? Do you make assumptions about whether food is available to school children or not, whether they have food security or food insecurity, or whether they live in food deserts or not? We make some assumptions that when somebody goes home to spend the night at night, that it is a home, like an apartment or a duplex or a condo or a house. We make those assumptions, and those assumptions don't typically include a van down by the river. But a van down by the river works for subsistence. It works. But we don't make those assumptions. So if you make assumptions that you're going to walk to the sink and turn it on and water's going to come out, that's not a subsistence level. You have to have access to drinkable water, but nothing says you have to be able to turn on your own kitchen faucet and have the water come out. So working poor, they can subsist. But the average standard of living, the average luxuries, the average opportunities for advancement, the average life chances that we think of regarding U.S. lifestyles that we see in movies depicted, about U.S. lifestyles, those kinds of assumptions are not present in working poor households. They have no benefits in employment if they get sick and have to be quarantined or something. There's no sick leave benefit that's going to keep their job for them if they're required to go. So, their jobs are volatile also. Okay, working class. Working class is the next rung up from the bottom, and please note, 30%. We've got 55% of the entire U.S. population represented on these bottom 3 rungs. And the working class have good, stable jobs when the economy is sound. If you make cars, if you make electronics, if you sell jewelry, if you sell luxury goods and you make a commission as a salesperson, a lot of you can make a ton of money doing that. If you are a chef, if you are a sous chef, if you are a hospitality manager, you make great money and have great opportunities as long as people with disposable income are coming to your hotel, your restaurant, buying new cars rather than driving their other one for another few years. If people are buying things, then the kind of job that you have in the working class is a great job. You've got health care, you've got vacation time, you've got sick leave, you've got retirement income, you maybe have union membership that gives you some kind of job security, but if people stop buying Fords, then Ford factories are going to be shut down. If people stop going to Applebee's, then Applebee's is going to be shut down. And so these kinds of working class jobs are dependent upon the overall health of the economy outside. Middle class, on the other hand, notice another 30%. We were already at 55. Now we're at 85% of the population on these bottom four rungs. The middle class are college-educated workers that tend to have a little bit more stable job experience than working class do. These are managers, these are nurses, these are people with associate's degrees or higher, and therefore the credential that they have based on their education level gives them an opportunity for that occupation. And typically there are fewer people in the population with those credentials, and therefore their job can be more secure. So, middle class, read the section for both of these in your textbook to find out a little bit more. But please notice 85% of the population already on these bottom rungs. Now I'm going to ask you to add 14% to 85. What is it? 14% to 85? 99% of the population is on the bottom 5 rungs of this socioeconomic ladder. The upper middle class, these are higher level educated people, such as attorneys, such as physicians, such as people who maybe have a sole proprietorship and make, money from being entrepreneurial. These kinds of people make up 14% of the total population, but 99% on the bottom 5 rungs here. We have 2 rungs to go, so we split the 1% between these 2 top rungs. Now, I don't like the names of these top rungs very much. Lower upper and upper upper seems pretty uninventive, but lower upper is wealth that is about 1 generation, maybe 2 generations old. People who can live off extensive proceeds from their life's work. Think about people like Kanye West, who made his riches in his own lifetime. He is making his riches within his own lifetime, and if he manages his financial situation well enough, his children, and soon-to-be ex-wife, so I hear, will be able to benefit from that for their entire generation and then the generation afterwards, such as Paris Hilton does, somebody who you might not know very well, but she was a big deal like 20 years ago. Hilton name, of course, comes with the hotel. She's like 5th generation, something like that, 5th generation money. So she's the upper class. We don't have to even know her name because she has so much resource in her bank that she never had to go into business for herself. She never had to gain celebrity in our eyes. She never had to generate additional income to support herself in the upper class because she inherited it from generations of wealth behind her. And therefore, the lifestyle and the life chances of these different people is vastly different when you look from one to the next. So, in our next video, we are going to look at some classic theories about how this division, great and massive division among people in society, how it evolved over time. So we're going to go back in history like we did with the Industrial Revolution lecture way early on, and we're going to learn about how does this happen based on the thoughts and the ideas of a couple of classic theorists. So I'll see you again soon.